ministers and members of Parliament, members of the diplomatic corps, ladies and gentlemen. I bid you good morning and welcome to this National Rice Industry Conference, the first of its kind, aimed at addressing some of the key binding issues which presently affect the rice industry in Guyana. The Ministry of Agriculture is delighted to host such an event, which marks a new and exciting chapter in the annals of the industry. As we deliberate on the theme, Sustainable Development Amidst Challenges, I would wish to believe that all stakeholders will foster a renewed partnership after leaving this conference today. The rice industry is at present the most important agricultural industry in Guyana. Indeed, it is now ahead of sugar in terms of foreign exchange earnings. Rice is the largest user of agricultural lands, over 90,000 hectares being currently double crop, and absorbs and influences more of the working population than any other industry in Guyana. The industry supports at least 10% of Guyana's population directly, and many more indirectly. It is the major source of income and employment in rural areas. In addition, the industry contributes approximately 61% of agricultural GDP and 21.3% of foreign export earnings. On top of all this, it is the main staple of the population, with per capita consumption estimated at being around 50 kilograms. The byproducts, bran and gluten rice, are the main components of locally produced animal feed. Broken rice is also used in the brewery industry. Moreover, the hull, or shell, of the rice is utilized as fuel for paddy dryers and for electricity generation. The rice industry contributes about 5% of GDP in Guyana and accounts for more than $240 million in export earnings. More than 40,000 people directly depend on the rice industry for their livelihood. In terms of food security, rice has helped to secure Guyana's status as a food secure country. Over the years, rice has excelled in its production, moving from 298,125 metric tons in 2007 to 635,208 metric tons in 2014. This represents a 113% increase in production. The Guyana Rice Development Board has excelled in its production, has delivered intangible and very concrete results on the ground in the last 5 years. The GRDB has distributed 153,301 bags of seed. It has supported and established 347 farmers' field schools, resulting in the improved capability of 9,430 farmers. It has conducted 46 farm exchange visits, held with 7,452 farmers participating. It has carried out 328 soil tests for farmers to determine land suitability and nutrient management. It has provided government assistance to farmers in the form of seed, paddy, and fertilizer. However, the industry does have some major challenges to address. Among these include drying and storage, marketing, which plays a key role in the survival of the industry, compliance by millers, another important aspect which will be discussed today, improving varieties to enhance productivity, good agricultural practices, and energy-efficient management of rice mills and value-added rice production. Indeed, the current marketing situation is a case in point. I think the clearest message is that costs matter, and that we cannot afford to neglect the impact of these costs that they have on prices for paddy and rice. Implementation of rice marketing plan, improving productivity, improving operational efficiency in rice mills, and the development of more value-added products are things we can do collectively and individually to address this. Today I will simply highlight some of the key messages that might guide our future program of activities. And of course, it is you, the farmers, millers, and stakeholders, who will then discuss, shape, and divide that work. Regarding the delayed payment to farmers, the current delivery mechanism The law is that millers pay farmers 50% of their purchase price within 14 days, with full payment within 42 days. This has not been happening as a suggestion to ensure farmers and producers of paddy are paid within a reasonable time frame. There is a possibility of establishing a revolving fund. This will benefit both the farmers and millers. I alluded to the high cost of production earlier. I will say again, the cost of production of paddy and rice is a major hindrance to Guyana's competitiveness in the world markets. While we have the ability to produce high volumes of rice, the cost of production impedes our ability to compete. To overcome this hurdle, the GRDB focuses heavily on research and extension. Research focuses on plant breeding, agronomy, soils and weeds, pathology, entomology, and seed production, while the extension arm promotes conditions for access and transfer of improved rice varieties and crop management practices for farmers. For instance, in plant breeding research, the GRDB has developed 14 varieties over the period 1997 to 2014, which focus on resistance to pests and diseases, good agronomic characteristics, high yielding potential that's greater than 6 metric tons per hectare, stable resistance to blast, high milling coefficients, excellent cooking qualities, tolerance to saline conditions, and aromatic varieties. Additionally, best practices remain an important step in the cycle of production. The GRDB's 6-point practice recommendation is a move we can all safely say is key to improve rice yields. Farmers who have experimented with planting methods have more than doubled their yields from 20 to 22 bags per hectare per acre to 50 to 58 bags per acre. Regarding the marketing of our products, trade will be a key element in delivering the sustainable development of the rice industry. I implore all millers and exporters to let us collate our efforts and to partner with the government to ensure that we focus on finding and sustaining markets. Together we can achieve this, and indeed, it's a long road ahead, but some good work is already underway. Feedback and government interventions in the industry is also necessary to identify and address issues vital to its development. The agricultural sector has a disproportionate level of vulnerability. Rice in particular is exposed to the vagaries inherent in external markets, weather, diseases, and man-made problems. However, conferences such as these can be used to determine the type of assistance needed and find the best mode of utilizing the resources that will be provided to not only bring relief, but also to ensure that some of the existing problems are addressed in a definitive and timely manner. This government will continue to make investments that are necessary and fully support the agricultural sector. Guyana has been exporting rice consistently for over 100 years. Consistency has led to reliability in the industry, and the government has continued to pay emphasis and make the relevant interventions. We will not stop here. Together, we will ensure that more markets are tapped into, with the view to Guyana's rice being available worldwide. To foster the continuous growth of the rice industry, investing in key infrastructure is also mandatory. Indeed, this year the GRDB's central laboratory has achieved ISO IEC certification, the first such to be accredited in Guyana, which is an achievement we must all be proud of. In time past, the GRDB sent samples to the USA for testing, a process which took approximately 2 weeks. Today, we no longer have to take this route. Being ISO certified is a useful tool which will add credibility to them by demonstrating that rice coming out of Guyana meets the expectations of our buyers. So these must be our priorities. Some of the presenters at this forum will go into more detail on these issues. Professor Thomas will place our rice industry in the global context. John Tracy the CEO of the Guyana Bank for Trade and Industry, will explain the role of financing in all its facets in the smooth running of the industry. Kuldeep Ragnall, our Extension Manager, will investigate the farmers' cost of production. Dr. Peter de Groot, Chairman of the Millers Association, will enlighten us on the cost of production at the mill. Claude Housty, former General Manager of the Guyana Rice Export Board, will deliberate on what has been our past experiences and the way forward in finding new markets for Guyana's rice. And Dr. Wazir Mohammed will dilate on demographic shifts in Guyana in response to global change and matters thereto appertaining. Finally, I am pleased to announce that a new board of directors has just been appointed and gazetted to guide the GRDB over the coming year. As per statute, the board is comprised of farmer and miller representatives, a consumer representative, as well as representatives of the Ministries of Foreign Affairs, that's Foreign Trade, Finance and Agriculture, and a representative from the legal fraternity. The General Manager is an ex officio member of the board. In keeping with my remit, I am also pleased to announce the appointment of Mr. Claude Eric Housty, former General Manager of the Guyana Rice Export Board, as its chairman. In closing, I thank you for your attention. Let us continue working together to ensure that the next chapter of the rice industry is a successful one.
My main qualification for being here today is that I'm a rice eater. Chairman, Vice President and Prime Minister, Honorable Moses Nagamutu, Vice President Kemarach Ramjatan, Minister of Agriculture, members of the Cabinet, members of the Diplomatic Corps, members of the Guyana Rice Development Board, paddy farmers, rice millers, workers, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. This is an important conference. Rice, most likely, is the most widely consumed food around the world, and certainly in Guyana. What's good for rice is good for Guyana. The entire country became aware of some of the problems facing paddy farmers. And today we are not only here to speak about problems, but we are also here to speak about the future. And it is my view that the future is bright. Growing up at WIM on the quarantine as part of my upbringing, I came into contact with rice farmers, Letterkenny, Bloomfield area. And I became familiar with the fact that it was already at that time a resilient industry. As you know, as Mr. Holder mentioned, there was a surge in rice production to meet markets in the Caribbean and elsewhere during the First World War. And there was a second surge in the Second World War. Unfortunately, we've run out of world wars. And we need to keep on looking for markets. But even at that time, in the 1940s, late 1940s, when I was growing up with the Prime Minister in WIM area, rice farmers had demonstrated their capability and their capacity for entrepreneurship. At night, they were the only people who had light because they were generating wind power. They generated electricity from wind power. And many of the rice millers were ahead of the rest of the community in that regard. But as Vice President Ramjatan can tell you, sometimes while we were in opposition last year, before the last, rice farmers would come from the various regions to picket, to speak with us, to seek an audience because of the problems they face, problems of finance, problems of marketing. So APNU and AFC did become familiar with the problems facing the rice farmers over the years while we were in opposition. And that is the reason for our deep commitment to having this conference today and to sitting down with millers and farmers to ensure that those problems are solved. We know what happened last year in July. Paddy farmers particularly, had to demonstrate at Scribble Coast. And there have been smaller and larger demonstrations throughout the coastline. We don't need confrontation, we don't need demonstrations. What we need is solutions to this age-old problem. We need rice, and we need to ensure that rice production is conducted in an efficient manner. We did promise in our manifesto that within the first 100 days, we would have a conference involving rice farmers, paddy farmers, rice millers, and other stakeholders. And we're fulfilling that promise today. We want to bring an end to the anxieties, to the agony, to the apprehensions of persons involved in rice production. This conference today brings together stakeholders in the industry, but we are aiming at the future, not with recrimination and looking back at the past. We want to ensure that the relationship between the various stakeholders in rice can be improved through consultation, through collaboration, and through a deeper comprehension of the problems facing the industry. Tensions and suspicions would be counterproductive. The problems in the industry can be overcome by cooperation, not by confrontation. A common approach is in the national interest. I'm confident that all of the challenges facing the industry in Guyana could be successfully addressed. I'm confident in the future for rice because it is an industry that already possesses, over a century ago, had demonstrated its possession of the expertise, of experience, and particularly of enterprise, the spirit of entrepreneurship. The rice industry possesses significant assets, both human and material. Our rice farmers are committed, and they have been so for generations. Many rice farmers today are children of rice farmers. And they will hand over their farms, they will hand over their productive assets to their children. We have extensive arable lands on the rice cultivation, and there is substantial milling capability. But rice is not in crisis. We do have challenges, yes, but we must disabuse ourselves of the view that the industry is on the point of collapse. It does face challenges because of years of neglect, institutional decay, and some bad decisions. But we must make those challenges into opportunities for change. I'm confident that the conference today will initiate a process of consultation and collaboration between the administration and the stakeholders in the industry to overcome those challenges. It goes without saying that rice holds an important place in our history, having been brought here by enslaved Africans and also developed measurably by indentured Indians. It has an important place in society and, of course, the economy. It plays an important role in rural development. It sustains the livelihood of, as the Minister explained, nearly 20% of our population. It creates jobs for thousands of Guyanese, and it's the only source of income for hundreds of farmers. Many rural communities depend on rice, and if it fails, those communities too will fail. It is one of the pillars of the agricultural sector, and we must ensure that that pillar is not shaken. Growth remains buoyant. Guyana last year recorded annual production in paddy, and we are moving closer and closer to the 1 million ton mark. But we are still a minor producer on the international scene. And we need to make our industry more competitive. There are competitors out there. We're not alone. We're not fighting among ourselves. We have to compete against larger and more efficient self-sufficient producers. Historically, rice has been resilient. Being Guyanese, like many of us here, it has survived floods. It has survived droughts. It has survived pests. But it will not be able to survive volatile international markets unless we bring changes into the industry. Finding new markets for rice is the greatest challenge we face now. The paddy farmers themselves have already demonstrated their capability to increase production in response to the markets. So we need to look at the marketing problem. Another challenge, of course, is storage. Those of you who travel into rice marketing, rice producing areas, paddy producing areas, as soon as you cross the Mahika Bridge, you will discover that there is a storage problem. Sometimes lorries are parked for a week at a time. You can see the paddy on the ground. A whole string of lorries parked, waiting to be delivered. Labor is tied up, vehicles are tied up because there is insufficient storage capacity in our rice paddy producing areas. Solutions must be found. And I asked this conference to look to see how we can ensure that these challenges are met. Our internal market is far too small to take off the production that we are aiming at. At present, we export more than 75% of what we produce. Perhaps Guyana is unique in the world of paddy production, that we export such a large portion of our production. We do sell our rice in 40 different countries around the world, but those markets are not all safe, they're not all guaranteed. We will have to continue to find new markets. This administration is committed to overcoming the barriers to market access. We want to make sure that we practice what I would call economic diplomacy. We have been good in selling rum, we must also be good at selling rice. This administration, through its economic diplomacy, will use its foreign service to continue to open new markets for rice. But more important, private exporters must demonstrate their own capability, their own capacity to penetrate foreign markets for our rice. Manufacturers also must explore the prospects for new value-added products. Dealers and vendors must improve the competitiveness of our rice. Farmers must reduce the cost of production, the cost of transportation, and the cost of storage. All of these costs are too high, and they contribute to making Guyana's rice too expensive and uncompetitive. We must, at this conference, address these challenges. Challenges in the field, challenges in the offices, challenges in the wharf, challenges in the laboratory, and challenges in the mills. Farmers must understand the need to reduce their production costs by embracing constantly new high-yielding varieties of paddy. The administration will continue to support farmers in accessing better and higher-yielding varieties. And I expect that the Minister of Agriculture will discuss these measures with you later on in the conference. We have to continue to find new ways to reduce production costs. Otherwise, we will lose our markets. Linked to the marketing challenge is the issue of delayed payments to farmers, paddy farmers. This is a major constraint, and some persons have made recommendations as to how these challenges could be overcome. Some people have called for the reintroduction of a bank that can help to remove the uncertainties in payments to paddy farmers. Others have called for a stabilization fund. Let us look at all of the options. The administration does not come here with ready-made solutions. We want to hear what the stakeholders have to say, and and what is practicable in our circumstances. Some millers do not pay their paddy farmers on time, and as a result of that, farmers cannot prepare for the next crop. I see. Permanent Secretary, I think you need to repeat your message about the mobile phone. You're having a symphony of ringtones. We need to examine all of these problems. As you know, a revolving fund had been established, but that fund has proven to be inadequate. I think that last year the fund was about $5 billion, but paddy worth more than 44 billion had been produced. This creates a problem of overdrafts, and some of the banks might be unwilling to extend overdrafts, particularly in the agricultural sector. But again, this is one of the issues which we can address today. So, ladies and gentlemen, we don't have problems, we have challenges. And I'm confident that a conference such as this will help to overcome those challenges. Rice is too big to fail. We have a vision for rice. We have a vision for the industry. We have a vision for the contribution that rice can continue to make in Guyana's growth. In the midst of booming paddy production, unfortunately, there are still thousands of persons, particularly young persons, in rural areas who are unemployed or underemployed. We have to reverse this reality by creating industries based on rice production, which can add value to rice and also employ our young people. We have the resourcefulness to achieve this. We hope that in the future, in the very near future, by a collaboration between the administration and the stakeholders, the importance of rice will be further enhanced. We do not wish in the administration to usurp the role of the private sector. Rice production is a private business, and we support private enterprise. The administration does not want to have to bail out the rice industry. We don't want to become a banker for the overdraft for exporters and millers. Our role is to establish a framework to provide a level playing field so that the industry can prosper. Our role is to ensure safety, to ensure quality, to ensure respect for labor laws, and to assist in the promotion of market access for rice exporters. The administration is here to support rice production. Rice is too big to fail. We will not allow it to fail. We will work with you to make the industry competitive. What is good for rice is good for Guyana. I wish all of you successful deliberations in this conference. I thank you. May God bless our rice industry.